Thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. What is the number one thing that you need to absolutely make sure you have dialed in when you file your claim? What is it? I will tell you. It's making sure that you can actually get that claim service connected, your condition service connected, whatever condition, whether you're filing 1 or 10, doesn't matter, right? You need to make sure that you get those service connected. That's the number one thing, because it doesn't matter if you have the worst case of GERD in the world, right? And you're going to be at 60%. And it doesn't matter if your migraines are off the chart and you would get a 50% rating for those. And it doesn't matter about all these other things if you don't get service connected for it, right? They could be severe. They could be super bad and nobody disputes it, right? But if you don't get it service connected, who cares? Doesn't matter. Zero. Doesn't mean anything. So you must make sure that you absolutely do your work to develop your claim and ensure that you get your claims fully adjudicated in your favor and get them service connected. Okay? This is a quick topic I just need to hammer on a little bit. So please give me the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend. You may already get all this and know it, but you watching this and giving the thumbs up, subscribing, watching it through its duration, tell YouTube that this is important information. And when you do that, it puts it into the hands of other veterans who don't know. So us working together help to share the message. So I count on you, just like you count on me, to hopefully drop a nugget of something, right? I already know that I don't give everybody everything, right? I get it. I'm trying to just share what I can and put what I can out to folks, and hopefully there's little pieces of, I get it, or I see this from a different perspective or whatever, and you get the little nuggets, right? So that's all this is about. It's about, and I'm really super trying to be consistent to get this information out to you. No matter what I see or where I see it, give it to you so you can have it. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? So anyway, that was going on and on. Let's get rolling. So how do you ensure that your claim is service connectable, right? So I look at it this way. You'll hear a lot of different things out there, and I'm willing to have a debate with anybody on it, but the bottom line is this. Look, you have to have some time in service, number one, right? And typically when we're talking about this, and I say we as almost the collective group of people that are sharing information, although I don't know any of these people personally, I'm a fan of anybody sharing good information with us, right, as veterans, because there's plenty of us that need the information. So the number one thing is time in service. Often we're referring to active duty time, okay? So active duty time. The second thing that you need is a diagnosed condition, okay? The VA is not going to diagnose you. Just because you say you have X doesn't mean that the VA is going to, run you through the doctors and make sure that you get diagnosed for it. You need to supply the evidence to the VA that you have X. So you need to have a diagnosis from a medical provider. Okay, that's number two. Now, the little caveat here, and there's a bunch of these weird nuancy things, so I'm not going to go into every little nuance because you can go 1,000 different roads with VA stuff, but this one's important. Not only do you need a diagnosis, that diagnosis must be for something that has residual effects or is chronic in nature. Okay, you can't just have, I had a cold once and now it's gone. I need to have some sort of lasting effect. Okay, the example that I like to give, if you've watched, a lot of my videos, and I've done this several times, is an arm break. You may break your arm in service, and they put a cast on it, and then guess what? They take it off, and if you're 100% good and there's no issues, you're probably not going to get a claim for your broken arm because they fixed you 100%. Okay, but if maybe you had a compound fracture and it's, the bone stuck through your skin and now you have this horrible scar. You could get it compensated for the scar. You could put it in for the scar, which was because of the break, right? So that's kind of a caveat there. Or if the break was closer to your elbow, and it healed funny, and now you have a range of motion issue and you can't extend your arm all the way, right? Now you have a residual effect, right? So that you would be able to file a claim for if it was obviously during service. So the other thing to think about is there could be circumstances around that break. Let's say your AO is getting shelled by mortars or something, and so you're running and you jump and you dive and you land funny and you break your arm, and all of that whole episode led to you having PTSD. Now the arm break itself, right, if it was a clean break and it healed 100%, you're not really going to file for the arm, but that's part of the story that contributed to your PTSD, right? So there's different variants there. But the bottom line is that number 2 piece is a diagnosed condition that's chronic in nature or has some sort of residual effects. The third thing is a nexus. Now, before I go into nexus is eliminated, the need for a nexus is eliminated by presumptive conditions. And in lieu of a nexus, the VA puts weight on time and place of service, right? So like Camp Lejeune or Vietnam or Gulf War stuff for the burn pits, etc. So I'm not talking about presumptives, just throwing it out there that there is another nuance. So besides presumptives, you need a nexus. That nexus is a link between your diagnosed condition and your time in service. The time in service gives you a window of opportunity. The diagnosed condition talks about your condition. The nexus is placing that inside of your time in service. Now, the best way to establish a nexus, a link, is being diagnosed while you're in service for a condition or injury or whatever, right? We don't often do that. That's the problem. Now, what happens is you may mention something. You may mention a bad knee. I twisted my knee, I twisted my ankle. Maybe something gets written down. Maybe something's written, or maybe you self-attested to a few things in a annual physical health assessment, something like that. So there might be some vague mentioning of either specific conditions or signs and symptoms of a condition inside your medical treatment files, right? So your service treatment records. So it's important to order those if you don't have them, and if you do have them, flip through them and actually read them and try to see if you can uncover anything. Because anything that mentions either the condition or a sign or symptom of a condition that you want to file for helps you build a nexus, okay? Now, what the VA is not really, they're not 100%, you have to show me that the military caused this thing. That's not what they're saying. Now, in some cases, it's yes, the military caused that, right? But what they're really looking for is show me that this thing started during your time in service. Now, again, there's always nuance to this, right? A presumptive condition can happen years and years and years later, and they just presume that it was due to your time and place of service, right? So that would be opposite of what I'm saying to you right now. But for the most part, for most conditions that you are filing for that are not presumptive, you need to show the VA that it started, first manifested, during your time in service. And if you're able to show those things, then you will get a successful decision as far as service connectability is concerned. Okay? Now, so what I'm telling you is that if you filed a claim for X and you were able to, hey, here's my time in service, here's my diagnosis, and oh, by the way, here's my nexus, I'm proving that it started during my time in service. If you have those things, you should be approved for service connection for that condition. Okay, what happens is, again, all the different stories, right? There's so many different avenues you can go down. Migraines, for example, okay? Never mentioned it, not once through your entire time in service. It's not written anywhere. You get out and 5 years passed, 10 years passed, 15 years passed. Now what? You're trying to file for migraines and there's zero proof in your service treatment records. The military has no clue that you've ever had migraines. And what do? Right? This is where you hear the term Nexus Letter. Okay? A Nexus Letter is simply a letter from a medical provider that's attesting to your condition, in this case migraines, as being at least likely as not, or more than likely, to have occurred due to or as a result of or during your time in service, right? So some sort of verbiage like that. They can throw in some rationale. They can throw in some studies. They can throw, build it around your MOS or what have you, or maybe you were fuel systems in the Air Force sniffing, jet fuel all day, and maybe that contributes to it, right? So they can build around that stuff to help show the VA, hey, as a medical provider, based on the information I have, I feel very strongly that the migraines are due to or occurred from or manifested first in or whatever your time in service, and then that helps to build that nexus. You can write a letter yourself stating that you would just get hands full of Motrin from the medic or the corpsman or what have you, and nothing ever got written down. You would go to the market and buy Motrin and aspirin yourself and just quote unquote self-medicate, right, to get through your migraines. You just weren't really big on going to the doctor. You knew what it was, and you knew how to deal with them the best you could with aspirin and Motrin, right? So you can explain a lot of that. And then if you know anybody, maybe you were married while you were in, maybe maybe you had older children when you were in that could write a letter because they remember you having migraines. Maybe you have somebody that you served with that could write a letter and go, yeah, I remember he would, have to lock himself in the closet for 5 hours sometimes, whatever. You can get other statements. This lay evidence will all come into factor when you're filing your claim. Then that will help you get the rating get the service service connection that you're looking for. If it gets denied appeal, the judges, I will tell you, the judges and the higher level reviewers and anybody who's been around longer will give more weight to that evidence than a low level, more entry level person because they don't understand the law. But once it gets to a judge, the judge will give that a fair amount of weight, and especially if you're providing it from several different angles. So with that, I'll go ahead and conclude it. It is just very important, right? Very important to make sure that you set yourself up for success when filing your claim. Thanks again. I appreciate you. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.